Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Wine, Repeat, a podcast for all you wine lovers who, if you're like me, just cannot get enough of the good stuff. I'm Janina, your host, brand ambassador, wine educator, and sommelier. So stick with me as we dive deeper into this ever-evolving, wonderful world of wine. And wherever you are listening to this, cheers to you. Welcome, wine friends, to another episode of the show where we explore the people, places, and grapes shaping the world of wine. Today, we are diving into a region that often flies under the radar, but absolutely shouldn't. Lugana DOC, home of the stunningly fresh, mineral-driven white wines made from the native Turbiana Grape. And who better to tell us about this region than my guest, Fabio Zenato, the newly elected president of the Consorzio Tutela Lugana DOC. So in this episode, you're going to learn what makes Lugana truly unique, from its glacial clay soils and Lake Garda's microclimate to the aging potential of this white wine that you may have never tasted before. Fabio is also going to walk us through the evolution of Turbiana, winemaking styles, and why Lugana might just be the perfect wine region for your next Italian escape. Oh, and quick housekeeping note. If you're getting value out of the podcasts, please take a moment to leave a quick review. It really helps others discover the show. So get ready to fall in love with a new grape and maybe start planning your next holiday to Lake Garda. Let's go. Well, welcome, Fabio. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Ciao. Buongiorno.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to be doing much better in a second when I taste some of these delicious wines. But before I wet my whistle, you personally, it's always nice to dig into who you are a little bit. Your family actually has been working the land for 3 generations. So it's not like you just tasted a wine when you were 18 and thought it tasted quite nice. So can you remember a moment in the vineyards as a child? Was there a specific moment when you said, yeah, you know what, this is going to be my life too?
That's a very tricky starting question, Janina, but of course, yes. Let me say this on my way. I think that when you dive in this kind of business, in this family generational activity of winemaking and being a vintner, it's something that needs to grow in you as a seed, day by day, month by month. And I'm precisely remembering a lot of frames when I was a child in the vineyards, when the first time with my dad as a child that I was lost, let's say, because of the dimension of the vineyard versus myself as a child. And then my dog found me back in one of the rows, right? So then I remember when with my granddad, I was there, and the granddad, right? She told me you have to be maximum 1 meter from my leg, because she was sure that I was getting lost, right? So, this kind of frame, these pictures are really inside myself. And then I remember when I was a bit more a guy than a young child, when I was left for the first time in the vineyard to do some specific easy jobs alone, of course, with my dog always, which were, the first time that I was feeling kind of yes, I'm an actor now, right? No more an assistant, you might say. So kind of little trust getting more and more in myself from the family, and on the other side, more confidence in some of this easy section, let's say, in the vineyard, which
I love it.
Felt me kind of proud, right?
You got lost as a child in the vineyard and you've actually never really found your way out, quite clearly. Oh, how poetic. So you've actually, as an adult, you've studied vine DNA and clonal selection, which is fantastic. So I think we need to touch on one of the genetic confusions of Turbiana, because I still don't fully get it. Is it different from Verdicchio? How different is it from Trebbiano? We need to clear up. What is the grape?
So let me try to do my best in this, even if it's not so easy in a short answer, let me say. But let me try to make it in a easy way like this, because in the past decades and centuries, all wine grape varieties were described only for their appearance, right? So leaves, bunches, and behavior and fertility, which is, as I was mentioning before, what we see, what we observe in the vineyard day by day, period of bud starting or ripening, blooming, and all of this, right? The genetic is something else. So first of all, we need to try to focus on this little percentage of variation of the DNA, right? That's the investigated area. Why? The investigated area is the most remote area of the DNA. And it's exactly the same for us and many other animal species, right? We are very close, genetically speaking, to others, complicated organisms, let's say. And that's for vine. It's one family in the big population of vegetals, right? So having said this, the genetic distance is measured in a specific scale, which is Jacquard scale, that allow us to realize these 7 DNA loci that were differentiated, this variety versus other that were considered the same. And this was the genetic research, that genetic research we made here. But in reality, this was important to confirm genetically that there's kind of parental relation, but not the same thing.
Okay.
Why this specification? Because Trebbiano, very popular worldwide, as a main reason, is the largest family of grape varieties, of white grape varieties nowadays cultivated in the world. So there are some kind of Trebbianos that are with different specification in the name, like one region, one village, that are generally the same thing. But in this case, Turbiana di Lugana show these characters that allow us to get this specific identity and to grow up this more deep character of the grape, also because of genetic information, which is different.
Okay.
So no issue about when is the clone or the variety, but the point was to really understand when this was only a result of environment, or there was a genetic information that in this environment was showing this unicity in the final grape and wines.
So there is a genetic difference between this grape variety, which you're saying Turbiana, than Trebbiano di Soave, because that is what people used to call it.
Yeah, and technically is still a name that is allowed by the general information, because this is one of the closest, genetically speaking, right? The nearest, genetically speaking, is this. Also considering that we are cultivating in less than 50 kilometers. So this makes sense, right? Because when we go back in, let's say, ancient viticulture, all the variation of vines are commonly related to the migration of people in the ancient generations. So this is what is in reality. New adaptations of the plants, of the vines. Some were succeeding, others were, getting worse. So everything is, when we go back to the Pangea time, all the plants were moving with the people, especially, of course, the, let's say, nutrition plants they producing, the cereals, and as it was vine for vine since the Roman times. Yeah.
So is this, because obviously Soave is, as you mentioned, very close to Lugana.
Yeah.
Is this a mutation that has actually resulted in this being similar, but it is a different grape variety with shared similar history, or it is a clone of Trebbiano di Soave?
This is something that wasn't fully 100% understood. Why? Because mutation needs to be scientifically stable in one genetic, right? Heritage in a DNA. Here is not the same. So there's this differentiation in 7 DNA loci, but the cause of this was not understood 100%. That's the point. Then, of course, let me underline that here is Turbiana solo, 100%, let's say, even if the appellation says minimum 90%, which is very far from the, let's say, close friends of Soave situation where Garganega is the dominant grape, and in majority of the cases it's more than 90%, because the plant there is finally giving another result versus here, different soils. So it's a combination always, and what we see is the result of the genetic in that specific kind of environment, soil and climate.
It's adapted slightly, but also terroir, the land, the soil is making a difference regardless. Before I ask you to tell everyone what does Turbiana tastes like, people are also still labeling many of these wines as Verdicchio grape. So where does that fall into all of this?
Okay, in this case, it would be very easy to realize this with two pictures of the two grapes.
They're just not the same.
Yeah, because when you think about Verdicchio, just the word Verdicchio, that in Italian means a kind of green, informs you about that the skin is green, mostly, and very thin, versus Turbiana, which results quite thick skin, yellow, amber yellow when it's ripe, with very small black dots on the skin. So totally different skin. And then also the bunch. This is normally bigger than Verdicchio.
So this is just weird. Why have people been labeling these wines as Verdicchio?
You know, the reason is very simple. We have more than 500 native grapes in Italy, right? Producing wine nowadays. So, of course, there's a necessity of trying to simplify and to generate these micro, let's say, macro areas or groups of varieties to identify major characters, let's say. That's my impression, let's say, right? We are a bit complicated.
Well, everybody listening, regardless of all the confusion, this is Turbiana grape variety. I'm actually going to open up a bottle. I have a bottle of Tommasi 2024. This is am I pronouncing it right? Le Fornaci?
Le Fornaci. Yes, you're right.
Le Fornaci. And I think this one's quite a nice one to start off with because it's a fresh style, certainly. It hasn't had other winemaking techniques. So talk to me about this grape variety. What should people expect when they're having it?
So, grape variety, that's our priority. And of course, in this unique clay soil. This variety will show plenty of green sensation, white flowers, and nice, let's say, fruity sensation like pear. That means acidity and delicacy at the same time. And kind of very, very light white flowers like gelsomine or biancospino. And then this fantastic saltiness in taste. So the flavor is rich. So the wine is, generally speaking, it's a light body wine, 12.5, 12%. But then it is characterized, and that's the great, my friend, by this richness in taste, this saltiness, and this long persistence in the aftertaste. Am I right?
Yeah. Do you know what? I love the fact that super fresh, it's semi-aromatic. So it has lovely citrus fruits, but it's not totally, intense on the nose. It's not over the top. What I love, I'm getting this slightly grapefruity, zingy sensation. And then it finishes with, those almonds that they do really well. I'm sorry if you tell me if you have some in Italy. They have these almonds that they do in Spain that are, they don't have the skin on them. They're white and they're a little bit salted and a little bit oily. It's that kind of very without the skin almond with the salt, but really grapefruity at the same time. Just a really soft texture. This is very satisfying. Well, there we go. I'm enjoying my experience of Turbiana already. Whilst I sip a little bit more on this Tommasi wine, tell me and everybody listening about where Lugana is, because you've touched on these soils. We are sitting right on the southern shores of Lake Garda. This is a pretty awesome place to be. So how much of the region's magic is down to this exact location?
That's the majority, let's say, of the
all of it.
It's a bond relation, let's say, because in reality, our northern border is the southern Lake Garda shore. So our north limit is the water of Lake Garda. So important for two main reasons, as you can imagine. The first one, Lake Garda, maybe many of our friends know about this, was a glacier till 20,000 years ago. It was a huge mass of ice because if you consider Lake Garda as a glacier, it was really, really impressive, right? And being in the southern shore of the lake means that our soils are the direct consequence of the action of the glacier of Lake Garda. Our lands were submerged lands till 10,000 years ago. So you have to imagine this, let's say, basement of the lake coming up to emerged land, but the composition is very similar to the southern shore of the lake because of this action of, let's say, pushing down all the minerals and the elements, the clay, that here is kind of 60 meters deep in the soil. It's not kind of straight, a layer. It's 60 plus meters deep, the composition of these soils. Of course, as you close out to the water, as higher is the concentration of clay in the soil. And about this, let me underline a note. The wine you'd taste is first one is Le Fornaci, right? And Le Fornaci is a little arbor close to the area of Peschiera del Garda and Sirmione, just in the middle. And it's a specific arbor with this name because Le Fornaci is the Italian word to name the bricks factories where they were building bricks with oven. And so in this little arbor, they were loading the bricks produced in this territory like 100 years ago, not 1,000. So recent history. And they were sailing north to the northern part of the lake. So this gives you the exact idea of the consistent, of the tenacity, of the hardness of this clay soil.
That's really interesting. I'm glad I kind of started with this wine then.
Yeah.
And also Tommasi is a brand, a winery that I know very well. The Amarones and their wines. Actually, from Valpolicella, we should probably let people know this is a wine region that straddles two major wine regions, Lombardy and Veneto. How does that, is this a positive thing? Is this a negative thing? Does it make any difference?
So considering this, it's one region, which is Lake Garda region for us. We are in the southern shore, as you mentioned. So the villages are 5, starting from east is Peschiera del Garda, the solo village in Veneto region. Then it's Sirmione and Desenzano and Pozzolengo and Donato a bit lower in the profile of the territory, let's say. But the whole region is one region. And that's one of the unique things that we have here as vintners, to realize that's only one origin, the glacier. There's only one territory with no political borders. That is the direct effect of the lake today in the climate, for example, right? So we are dominated by light winds, like breezes, which are crossing the whole territory. In fact, the vineyards are all aligned north-south to allow this breeze to really influence and benefits the microclimate of this area. So it's one region.
Interesting. And so actually as well, the area is relatively flat. I've seen...
You're right.
Okay, everybody look online. There is beautiful photos. In fact, actually, if you Google, I think this is on Wine Searcher, and there's this gorgeous tower. You're probably going to tell me the name. It's San...
Martino.
There we go, San Martino. Yeah. Beautiful tower surrounded by cypress trees, obviously giving you the element of, the height. But then everywhere, the whole vista is flat, gorgeously manicured vineyards. In the background, obviously, which is the north, you have Lake Garda. And then behind that, you have all of the mountain range. Like, it looks absolutely sensational. But this is flat, isn't it? So does that mean then... in terms of aspect, basically, wherever you are as a vineyard in Lugana, you are just receiving in that wind.
Correct. In fact, when the territory of Lugana was created, let's say, the action was so direct that just a little portion of the southern hills are included in the board of the appellation that dates back to 1967. Because of this consistent change in the soil composition when you go southern to the hilly moraine area. So we have just hints of moraine here and there, but generally speaking, the common factor is clay and very low rocks. Yes.
So if most of it's flat and we are right by the lake, what is the altitude? I'm assuming we're very, very low altitude here.
Yeah, we are around about 68 to 75 to 80. And I think that our peak should be around 100. That's it.
Okay, fine. So there is still a slight spectrum because presumably the Turbiana grapes, if they're grown at that 100 meters above sea level compared to, say, 60, will be maybe a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit fresher. Or there's not enough of a difference, really. There's a consistency here.
This is a, let's say, this potential, this is a light difference that should refer more to, not to a temperature condition, but maybe to a soil composition. Why? As it's a bit more moraine soil instead of clay, should be a bit darker in color and getting a bit warmer. And in the end, a warmer soil, especially in the beginning of the season, it's getting a little of booster in the vegetation starting. So there might be a week of difference in the starting vegetation or the buds in spring because of this secondary effect of the warmer soil.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to touch on something else that could be different because, more wines are looking at me and saying, drink me, Janina. So one of the things I found quite fascinating is that with this grape variety, many Italian wines aren't necessarily known for their aging potential, but apparently Lugana breaks this mold. So you've sent me, where is it? I got to find it now. Right. I have a bottle of Cobue. Is this the winery's name?
Cobue. Yes.
Cobue. God, the challenge is here. Cobue. This is their Monte Lupo 2015, which quite clearly, I should probably try it first and clarify, but why do you think this grape variety ages so well?
This is a nice question and very hard to answer. This is something we discovered with the time. Leaving some, let's say, less bottles here and there, we realized this huge potential of this grape. And again, is the unique combination in between of this grape variety, this potential in genetic, in this unique, amazing territory and clay-based soil. Because here, in this kind of wines, when they start to age after 5-6 years, you really can feel the minerality character, which in my opinion is something that is related to this grape in this area, this soil. It's this evolution from this saltiness and this rich flavor on the young phase, let's say in the fresh version of the wine, let's say 2024 to 2020 today, that moves to this more vertical, more, let's say, less truly and more serious expression, which is always supported by the high acidity level that, generally speaking, Turbiana grape shows in harvest.
This is really fascinating because you're quite right on the minerality, whereas the other one had a little bit more of a saline edge, but it was beautiful, lovely fruits. And I have to say that Tommasi, when I was going back, it had this actually lovely mouthfeel, quite a nice weight. Lovely mouth coating. Here, now, 2015, the acidity is still really, really vibrant. But so it hasn't lost that. But the minerality you pointed out, it's going almost like a little bit more flinty, gunpowder smoke, slightly ashy, this kind of, and it actually makes the wine, it's very, very light. So actually, I find this very, very delicate now. Obviously, this is a different wine made in different ways. The Tommasi had a lot more kind of richness in comparison. But it's almost like beautiful, in spring when you walk through and then the flowers are just starting to wake up and give you a little hint, lots of little white flowers here and there. It's there. But the length is beautiful. I can't find a 2015 online, but somebody put up that a bottle of 2020 is simply $12 for this wine. I mean, is this right that this is a super affordable wine that just happens to be able to age if you forget about it in your wine rack for a decade?
Yes, this is what we have discovered in these last years. That's
crazy.
Because let me underline this. This is something that allow me to speak about a little about the Riserva version of Lugana, which was joining in the appellation rules in 2011. And this happened after we focused on these characters of the wine, after having been tasting for some, let's say, weeks, a lot of forgotten bottles that were in our wineries, right? So a group of the producers started to taste and then to better understand and then to make some lab tests and then to get some people to be very, let's say, rational in this tasting. And from there, we moved to the, let's say, adding of the appellation rules to add the reserve version. This is really a wine that you can, let's say, store for longer time, as the very important wine press Luigi Veronelli said this more than 30 years ago, mentioning that when you are a good wine lover and you taste Lugana for the first time, if you are a great taster and you have a great palate, for sure we will not remember for this unicity of characters linked to this grassy sensation, vegetal sensation, light, fruity notes, and saltiness. Then when you drink the same wine after some years, you get this complexity, this full taste sensation, but still very, let's say, harmonic. And when you be lucky enough to drink it after 10 years, like you're doing now, you get the unicity in elegance and verticality, which belongs to very few wines in the world.
Do you know, it's also got, it's so beautiful because it's really delicate. It's got this lemony vibe, but it's not like fresh lemon because it's aged. It's not like lemon curd. It's not concentrated enough. It's almost like, you know, when you get the most beautiful brioche bread that you can tear that's just so light and fluffy. Oh, actually, maybe I'm turning it into panettone, actually. It's the texture of panettone without the sweetness.
Yes. So maybe, let me say, the outside layer, right? Which is a bit extra cooked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So less sweet.
Absolutely. So we're not talking the sweetness, but again, I've had panettone with things like orange citrus, but this is more like lemon citrus, but it has that beautiful, obviously with the age, it's slightly getting bready, but in this really, really fall apart, almost melt in your mouth softness. That was lovely. And that's not even a reserva. So how about, I'm just going to have to imagine the extra years. I've got a Reserva in front of me. Beautiful label from the winery La Rifra. So this is a Reserva, but this is 2022. If a kind of a more everyday drinking Lugana wine can age so beautifully after 10 years, these Reserva wines, they're going to be incredible in 10, 15 years.
You're right. And this is a wine that is now in the market. So the 2015 you enjoyed before, for sure, is a library of the winery. But in this case, we're speaking of a wine that is set on sale right now for many of us in terms of harvest. So 2025, turning a few months in 2026, we are selling 2022 harvest of Lugana Riserva.
Amazing. And I can tell everyone. So the like you said, the one before, the 2015, I actually couldn't find it anywhere, certainly in the UK. And of course, it's 2015. The Tommasi that we were drinking at the beginning, you can get it from Cambridge wine merchants for around £19. This wine I've got now, Il Beppe, I'm looking, D Vino Wines in the UK are selling it for $24.99, which makes sense. We're spending a little bit more now because of Reserva. What are the rules for a Reserva wine in terms of aging requirements before they release the wine?
Yeah. So in terms of rules, Riserva, of course, has a unique character in taste and flavor, but the rule says that it has to be released in the market minimum 24 months after the harvest. So now we are in October 2025. We are now approaching the time when the Reserva 2023 could be released. Okay? But in the rules, there's also a specific detail regarding aging, in the sense that of these 24 months of evolution of the wine, minimum 6 months must be in bottle. So a wine that is sold in, let's say, December 2025 has a minimum 6 months of bottling aging, which means that it was bottled at least on June 2025. This is what the rule says. You can use oak or not, but the point is that you need to get this minimum 6 months of bottle aging refining. And let me say that the majority of the producers are preferring to get a longer time in bottle to really obtain the nice harmony in the whole sensation of the Reserva. Here we're speaking about harmony, elegance, texture, and this continuity in sensation that you appreciated before as well.
I really like the textures. The older one, slightly different. I mean, it was beautiful, but that in terms of texture, because of the age, no, that's a kind of very delicate style. But the first one I had, and now this, there's actually real richness to this. Obviously, it makes sense. It's had the aging. I'm sure the alcohol content is tiny, a little bit more.
For sure, there will be all the vineyard here,
These are spring wines for me. There's the flowers, there's the freshness, there's the suggestion that it's all just going to get sunnier and warmer and life is going to be good. That's what's coming out of the glass here. But actually, what's nice is this lovely peachy nature, and there's the flowers. I'm really getting like these lovely white flowers with it, but there's a bit of sweet spice on the finish with this one as well that's just making it really, really moreish. But I love from both the first and this one, texture, this mouth coating, but that it's just refreshed with the acidity. It's lovely. So that's Reserva. And it's amazing now, obviously, Reserva is still quite a new category. So it'll be really interesting to see when the time comes how incredible they are. But I think the fact that it's got such mouthfeel, great acidity and concentration of fruit, I feel like they're all going to get a bit of an almondy note on the finish, especially as they age. I feel like there's a suggestion of a like nuttiness.
Yes, it's just there in between of almondy and nuttiness. True. Because it's a bit less bitter than nuttiness, I think, but bitter than almonds, as you say before.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, right. We now need to talk about aging in different ways. So Lugana is not just shove it in some stainless steel and get it out there. There are many wineries that are doing a lot of lees aging. There are wineries using oak. And so now is the time to have a wine from you. Okay. Don't be biased now. You're not allowed to say it's the best one.
For sure it is not.
Oh, well, let the consumer decide. Everybody, now challenge on, get all of these wines. This is Le Morette. So this is the name of your winery. And the wine that I have is Benedictus 2023. Yes. Why Benedictus?
Yes, Benedictus, because we have this vineyard located in a little village which is named San Benedetto, as a tribute of the Benedictine monks that were really transforming this territory in the medieval times. And so we decided to get this direct, let's say, relation with the little village, which is not a town, but a small suburb, let's say, where they were the part of the gardens of the monks. And it's a very old vineyard, more than 50 years old, with very low production. And we will enjoy when we taste some of the characters you were mentioning about the Surly aging evolution, which is very important in Lugana territory. As for, let me say, these rare wines, but also for the fresh version of Lugana you started with. Why? Because Surly evolution is contributing to the personality, to the identity, to the character of the wine. You felt this. They are, let's say, delicate at the same time, but rich in flavor, right? And that's also the consequence of this long time Surly. You never get a Lugana very quick in the market of the new harvest. Why? This is a time very important to refine the wine to be ready and full, maybe by March, April minimum.
The point that you're taking so much care and time with so many of these wines makes a difference. I can totally notice the difference with this wine. So can you just because now it's rich, there's more herbiness, there's way more intensity. Is this just lees aging? Because I feel you've used some oak, right?
Yes. Here
Yeah.
there's old vineyard. There's a skim maceration for 1 day.
It's a
So the
little bit
color,
darker. Yeah.
yes, the color, this gold reflection are showing this. And then the fermentation is driven by netted yeast in this case because of the skim maceration. Is let's say the wine must is washing the skins, and so the yeast here are not netted yeast but the indigenous yeast. Of course, low temperature, and then one portion, let's say 25%, is ending the fermentation in tonneau to get this extra, let's say, texture, especially for a kind of integration and texture contributes. And then, of course, back to stainless steel with the blend with the stainless steel fermented, and time to refine to get this harmony in the end.
Well, this is still a spring wine. You're walking through the meadows. You've got the flowers, but the flowers on this are now going more to that musky lily jasmine rather than it being like acacia and kind of just a delicate, soft, fresh floral. No, this is actually quite musky. But at the same time,
exactly.
But at the same time, it's almost like, so again, shall we throw out a minerality term, petrichor? It's almost like you're walking through the meadow and it's just finished raining and you've got all of that smell coming up from the ground.
Yeah. So when you compare this wine to the first one you had, there might be 3 to 4 weeks of delay in the harvest. So in these weeks, in this, let's say, late harvest, in sense of last days of the harvest, the berry composition is totally different. Lower acidity, higher pH, a bit more sugars, and totally different profile in terms of organic acids. The complexity in the end is also a consequence of these initial raw material starting characters.
Very interesting. I mean, I think it's personal preference. Like, this is great value for the amount of work you've done. This is £19 from the wine rack if anyone wants to try. But actually, it's around the same price as the Tommasi, which hasn't had that oak treatment. So if you want kind of just the lighter, fruitier style of wine, you've got that with Tommasi. If you want something a little bit more aromatically herbal and a little bit more musky and a little bit of this, again, more of the spice, you're encouraging the spice. It's really interesting. Texturally, actually, weight-wise, I'll have to compare the two. I think they're quite similar. But the aromatic profile and the finish in terms of flavors is actually very, very different because of that aging and wine. That's really...
I would say that this one is more food friendly, let's say, right? It can pair some intense taste dishes, let's say.
Well, interesting you say that. Now, these wines already anyway, the spectrum, they're fresh, they've got great acidity. I am noticing there's lovely citrus flavors across the board. Seafood is obviously going to go hand in hand, no problem. But what are some more interesting, maybe more unexpected food pairings that would go with these wines?
Okay, that's also an interesting question because we are discovering this traveling. Let me say that Lugana is now exporting more than 50 different countries in the world. And we realize that it's not only a seafood wine, let's say, because it matches very well with a lot of hard cheeses, for example, several wild list of risotto, for example, like all the risotto with vegetables, like asparagus, like porro, like risotto agli agrumi, so with grapefruit, a lot of which is tasty, right? It's not a delicate oven cooked, steam cooked fish. It's something with more character. And at the same time, when you move to Asia, the fusion cuisine as well is matching with Lugana. Maybe with this last one, Lugana, you taste it with more character, with more persistence in taste. That can accept also the wok, the soy sauce and all these vegetables, let's say the richness in the preparations. So it's very, very interesting to pair Lugana with a lot of different recipes and kind of cuisine. And I think it's one of the reasons of this extra success in very far markets, because it pairs very well with a lot of different kind of cuisine.
Yeah, I can really see that, because ultimately it's got the texture, the acidity, a salinity, and even a slight spiciness as a typicality that I'm now picking up. Okay, I poured myself another. I've got so much wine. It's such a hard life, and I wasn't sure if I was going to open them all up. I don't know. It's happening. Anyway, I've poured myself another glass. This one actually is another Reserva. This is from Feliciana, their Circe. Yeah, and I'm just going to check the vintage. Yeah, 2022. So same as the other Reserva. Whilst I'm having a little taste of this, can we talk about something really important? The wines are great. I'm really enjoying it. I know that Lake Garda is the most stunning place. We all love to travel. How are we getting here? What is the best airport to come to? And how many days do we need to enjoy Lake Garda and then this region?
That's also a very interesting question, because for sure, the closest airport is Verona, less than 15 kilometers from here, 20 minutes.
That's nothing.
Yes, really nothing.
That's nothing.
But we are also close to a very important airport for the UK region, which is Milan-Bergamo, which is 45 minutes.
Okay.
With plenty of connections, let's say, to UK and generally to the European destination, let's say. So we are lucky to be close to two airports, which are very important for a lot of travels and tourism. And then considering the territory, how many days? That's very complicated, because I always recommend minimum 1 week. Why? There's the lake, of course, which is the most, let's say, direct impact on yourself. But then there are mountains as well. So if you go, for example, in the northern part of the lake in Malcesine, and you get the lifter, or the cabin is bringing you on 2,000 meters on the mountain, right? So in 35 minutes, you are from the lake level to 2,000 meters.
Wow.
And that's another. Then there's hiking, there's trekking, and of course, you have to spend a day on the water with the little ferry that are traveling all around the lake, because the northern part of the lake is sailable only by sailing boats or the public transportation service. So there's some details that are very unique. And then you cannot visit the area without stopping at least in 4 or 5 different villages that are right on the water, and get some history in you just walking through ruins, and then, of course, culinary. There's plenty of experiences that are getting you in the territory, in the feeling, in the local cuisine, in the local preparation, with the details that you can share with the chef, with the trattoria, and emotions in one word.
So if we're coming, and you said the culinary experience, if you could recommend one dish that is really from this area that you absolutely have to try, non-negotiable. What is the one dish that we have to try when we come and visit?
In this case, I would say 2. One that should be an appetizer, which is my preference, which is luccio pike. Luccio, which is in preparation, steamed with plenty of little herbs combination, and polenta, that is very traditional of this territory, which is very nice. And it's because of this prezzemolo and these nice spices with Lugana. The young version of Lugana is great, because it has this greenish in the food, and this citrusy in the wine is an exaltation of flavor, let's say. And then I would, of course, recommend il lavarello, grilled fish. It's a white fish grilled with just a line of extra virgin olive oil produced in this fantastic territory, which is the essential taste of the fish, with a nice rich taste coming from the grilling cooking, with a good texture regard, for sure. To have this balance, this good play in between of the fish and the taste of the wine.
Yeah, and that would be nice. Actually, that would be nice with this one. This Feliciana, I have the Reserva. Actually, compared to the other Reserva, this one's almost a little bit more honeyed almonds, but still with the floral note. So the other one was more textural. This is almost lighter and brighter, but a bit more honeyed. So there's some real versatility still across the board of these wines. They're delicious.
Si.
So I'm tasting the differences, but seeing obviously what this great variety brings to wine. What about the younger producers that are evolving the style? Is there experimentation happening now? I know you make sparkling. I know there's Charmat method. There is traditional methods. I think there is you do a sweet wine as well from Turbiana.
It's a very, very small production. And it's not, let me say, it's not constant. It really depends on the weather condition during the last part of the season to understand if the potential is good enough to get this final version of the Vendemmia Tardiva, which is this sweetie.
Precisely, because you'd be leaving the grapes on the vine if the conditions were good enough.
Yeah.
So is the focus, even with the young winemakers, totally still just this grape variety, some fresh, some aged in oak, some lees aging, or again, is there that more focus for some sparkling, or what's happening now?
So
what's the
let
future?
me say that the new wave or the current wave or the younger winemakers here, which are a lot, thanks God, there's plenty of younger winemaker producers.
Fabulous.
And are, of course, experimenting year by year because, as you know, we have one spot per year, per season, right? And so little portions, little vineyards trying to focus on individual vinification processes to better understand the potential of their own grapes and vineyards. But for sure, in this last decade, we arrive in the area, the concrete tanks like the claver, the amphoras, different kind of wood, like larger scale barrels. So there's plenty of, and then mixing these techniques, this way of vinification, maceration, long time maceration, short time maceration, but all around the idea of better investigate the potential of the grape, maybe for a niche bottle, for a small production, because the main focus stays on this freshness and this delicate complexity of this wine, mostly stainless steel fermented, to respect the character.
I'm actually really pleased you just said that most are stainless steel, because out of the 6 wines, I actually finally opened up the 6th one. So I've opened them all up. And this one is from Corte Sermana. This is their Duerive?
Duerive, yes. Duerive.
2023.
Okay.
Couldn't find this even on their website.
It should be a new label.
It's a new label. Well, anyway, very, very cool. I found out they're just 15 meters from the lake. That's cool. I'm drinking a wine, and this one is definitely a stainless steel wine. It's really, really actually the brightest of all of them. This one, and I imagine it's potentially the cheapest of all of them, actually. Do you have some idea? Because they're not...
I think you'll be on the way of Tommasi as price.
Tommasi,
it's a very small winery, plenty of precision, and very sadly on the water, let's say. The street is separating the shore to their vineyards. They are the closest, I think, one of the 2 closest wineries and vineyards of the appellation. So they feel the water, they hear the water, the vineyards, right?
I can hear the water now as I'm drinking and smelling it. I can hear it.
Aren't you drinking too much?
Sorry, I'm lying. You have seen I have been spitting, thank you very much.
Yes, of course, I can guarantee this.
But this has got this beautiful fragrance. It's got a little bit of sea spray, like even a slight bit of oyster shell, but even like crushed rocks, Parma violet, and it's just really pretty, and the florals are coming out, and this one seems the most lifted, but they're all just gorgeous. So I guess as we sum up, I've really enjoyed these wines. Have been really vibrant and alive and welcoming and giving, and as I said, they're springtime wines that we can enjoy at all of the seasons, but we can feel like spring in a glass. So where is Lugana going to shine brightest? White tablecloth or beach picnic? You choose.
I go for the second.
Beach picnic. Good, actually. I mean, I think actually your specific wine, actually, Le Moretti with the oak aging, actually, it's quite a nice white tablecloth. But as a whole,
yes.
Yeah, beach picnic. Love the vibe. And okay, to finish off, I want you to finish this sentence. So make it good. No pressure. The perfect Lugana moment is...
Everyone. No, the perfect Lugana moment is for sure sharing with friends in a nice, let's say, late morning aperitif with some snacks. So I would say in this way should be the best way to enjoy and to keep focus on the wine. Because sometimes when you pair the wine with food for some reason is the continuity of your experience versus wine. When you get wine and some snacks or an aperitif, maybe standing, you're more focused on wine. So
Do you know
Lugana
what?
first.
You've got great acidity. Acidity goes with all the oil and the salt of the snack. So yeah, everyone, don't stress out. Get a bottle of Lugana, make a whole snack tray. And apparently, as Fabio says, drink it at before lunch? I mean, go for it. Why not? 11 a.m. drinking.
Perfect.
Drink in moderation, but go for it. With
Of course,
friends.
yes. Sharing, yes.
Sharing is caring. Thank you so much, Fabio. I'm going to put all the information about these wines I've tasted and some links to the Lugana DOC. And if anyone listening has more questions, just give me a shout and let's talk this wine region and how we're going to travel together. Thank you, Fabio.
Grazie mille, Janina. Thank you for
My
everything
pleasure.
and for your support in this nice section. Grazie.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Have you got your passport ready? Because after this episode, I have a feeling a few of you are already mentally booking flights to Lake Garda. And I do not blame you. Sun, vines, lake breezes, and that chilled glass of Lugana. Oh, Fabio actually reminded me after we stopped recording that for my American listeners, flying into Venice is usually the best bet. And let's be honest, Venice is never a bad place to see first. And from there, it's just about an hour and a half to the Lugana DOC and those gorgeous lake views. Not bad for a weekend wine getaway. Now, next week, we're shifting gears, but staying in flavour territory. I'll be joined by Setsa Weimar, who has studied sensory science, worked with flavour compounds, and created the art of tasting. So we're going to be diving into why wines smell the way they do, how to build a flavour memory, and how to describe wine like a pro. Now, I always end with a wine quote, and in the spirit of travel and exploration, said by Tom Elkje, a wine writer, wine is the passport to the world. And I fully agree. Wine is so much more than what's in the glass. It is the story, the soil, the place. And this week, we got to sip a little bit of Lake Garda. Have the most beautiful week. And until next Monday, wine friends, cheers to you.